Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Allincrypto here, and today we are going to be talking about Chainlink. And I know there's probably a lot of very happy Link hodlers out there. We will be flying by the price. It's very encouraging to see this range that we've been in for over 500 days now be broken to the upside with confident volume. We have been predicting this, and we've essentially said, for somebody like myself that was investing in Chainlink back in 2019, that opportunity is here again today, and you've essentially had 500 plus days to position yourself, which we have done, and we're now reaping the rewards. So very happy with what we're seeing from a price point of view. But of course, the reason we like Chainlink is largely fundamental. So yes, we've got technicals that from an investment point of view really align with what we're trying to do. However, Chainlink is, in my opinion, going to be the standards for the real world meeting the blockchain world in regards to intercommunication, and in regards to, in the same way that it enabled real world data to gain access to the crypto space, to these on-chain ledgers. You know, on-chain ledgers are great at getting on-chain information. They can't really, there's a kind of barrier with getting off-chain data. Chainlink completely solved that problem and bridged the real world with the blockchain world, or the distributed ledger technology world. It's doing the same thing with the institutional world and the blockchain world. And it's actually going to facilitate the intermingling and the explosion of it. And actually, Chainlink released a tweet today where they looked at essentially tokenizing a Tesla car, which I want to start the video off on, or we'll look at the price, then we'll start the video off looking at this tweet, and then we're going to move on to a clip of Sergey really talking about what's happening here and talking about the transformational shift that Chainlink is largely at the forefront of, and how they are going to enable the traditional financial world to move on to the blockchain one. And I like to call it distributed ledger world rather than the blockchain one, because you do have the rise of DAGs and these other interesting technologies that are going on at the moment. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it all. There's a lot to go over. Let's start the video off just with a little bit of price action. You guys will know that we have been in what has been, perhaps for some, a very painful range, but another man's trash is one's treasure. And this has provided a great sort of accumulation range that we have now broken out of on extremely convincing volume, which is something that I certainly look for. You know, if I'm looking to get into a trade, it's something that I want to see that's backed up, certainly on a breakout, which Chainlink is now in. This is now an uptrending market, in our opinion. You're going to have pullbacks along the way, and maybe take advantage of those if you aren't already on the Chainlink train. But this is very convincing. It's convincing how much volume we've seen. And of course, there's been a lot of fundamental news going on for Chainlink. So we now expect this to continue for the foreseeable future, up until maybe, you know, a change in the broader markets. But Chainlink has now broken out and is likely going to do very well. And we're certainly doing very well off of it, you know, nearly 2+X off our sort of general buys. You want to find out what I'm buying and where, please do consider becoming a Patreon. Let's move on to today's tweet from Chainlink. Imagine if every Tesla was tokenized as a DNFT with real-time metadata updates showing its service records, mileage, accident history, market value, and more. All current and future owners would have on-chain access to verifiable vehicle histories. Now, this is just a very small, and you can see how this would work. This is just a very, I don't want to say small, but this is one application that you can use NFTs for and the blockchain. It's my opinion that you could move into a future where all cars have one of these attached to them. And this just doesn't end at cars. When you really think about the transformative nature of this, you know, it eliminates so many pain points in the kind of data world, certainly when it comes to used cars, for example. But if you think about that, it doesn't just stop there. That literally can apply to everything. Think about housing. Housing is likely going to have one of these NFTs that represent it. Think about anything and everything can have one of these. And Chainlink is not only transforming the kind of world in one way, you know, facilitating DeFi, it's now facilitating the interaction, the interoperabilities between this space and traditional systems. It's also pioneering the transformation of how we view and store data, and the kind of collaboration between NFTs and Chainlink is pretty insane, and I think that that's quite obvious for people to see. This is huge. You know, Chainlink is, in my opinion, going to be a key part of tomorrow's infrastructure. What I want to do now, guys, is jump over to a clip of Sergey talking about sort of the transformational change, certainly when it comes to institutions and how this looks. We'll split it into two. I'll do a little interval halfway through this clip, and then we'll finish the second half of the clip and we'll wrap the video up. But very excited about Chainlink, something we've been highlighting for a long time. It's nice to have finally got that plane off the ground. So without further ado, guys, let's dive into clip number one.
On the institutional side, you have people who have huge amounts of value in their system. And what I've learned is that because there's so much value in their system, they have to be more conservative. They have to be less risk tolerant. Because when you don't have any value in your system, launching a system that does something not exactly the right way is not a big deal, because you already don't have much to lose. And that's what some people do in our industry. They launch insecure systems, they don't get the relevant audits, they have failures, and then they deal with the failures. And I don't personally think that's the right approach. But when you're a bigger institution, when you have huge amounts of value, the reality is you can take certain risks that people with no value in their system can take. So that leads the institutions to move slower, which I obviously don't like. I'm very negative on how long it takes to move new technologies into institutions. But the benefit of moving them into institutions is that once institutions adopt a technology, such as banks or asset managers, once they adopt a technology, they put so much value on that technology that conservative nature works in your favor, right? Because just like it's a risk for them to get off Cobalt servers, and it's a risk for them to get off any number of other technologies, it then becomes a risk for them to get off your technology, because your technology is what powers their value. It's what secures their systems. It's what their employees understand. It's what they have processes around. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword. And the question really to a degree is, do you have the patience? Do you have the right product? Do you have the runway? Do you have the time to properly integrate into all of these large institutions that have large amounts of value, to prove that you're secure, to go through the process of proving that, to prove the value of all the features in a gradual basis to literally tens of people in different departments? And if you do, and you do integrate with them, and you do become the system that they use to transact between each other and within their own internal systems, and to move data into and out of contracts, well, then you've become an important critical part of that world. What we're doing is we're working with both groups, because I feel that both groups are fundamentally trying to do the same thing. They're trying to create valuable transactions.
We'll leave that there just to interject before we play the second clip. It's very interesting what he's saying about institutions move slow, and they have to, given the sort of value that they are responsible for. They are the legacy systems. They can't just do what a DeFi project can do. However, the interesting thing that Sergey's about to get onto is what happens when they do make that transition. So just because they're slow, that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It means that they have to, with all technologies, there comes skepticism that will then often sort of lead to kind of a middle area where people start to turn, and then a turning, and then a sort of plan needs to be executed to move on to them. And we are in that stage for crypto generally, where people have already explored plans to move on to these systems and are, setting dates and looking to actually do that. And Chainlink is absolutely at the forefront of that. This project is going to be huge, ladies and gentlemen. I believe that you are going to see, and I'm not saying Chainlink's going to get to this sort of market cap, but $1 trillion altcoin. Just like we saw $1 trillion Bitcoin, I think you'll have $1 trillion altcoins in the future. We've seen companies that, are far less impressive do that. So very interesting. Let's dive into the second half of Sergey's clip.
The DeFi public blockchain people have one group of people that have one set of requirements for what a valuable transaction is. And that's defined by personal control of assets, decentralization, and various new types of asset classes, such as flat coins are very interesting, and algorithmic stable coins. So really advanced stuff. So there's kind of a community of people that find these things interesting, and obviously they're interested in yield and DeFi and lending and so on. And then you have a different set of requirements in the institutional world around security and scalability and a few others. But realistically, I strongly believe that once the legal barrier between the startup world and the private bank world goes down, you will have both of these worlds connect into one big internet of contracts. And so if the public blockchain world runs off of Chainlink data, uses Chainlink automation in most of their critical transactions, utilizes cross-chain bridging to communicate between different chains, and then you have the private bank chain world communicating between themselves using CCIP, using that same data, using that same automation, and this wall, this barrier separating them disappears, then I think it's actually a very, very natural, almost a seamless experience for both of those groups to transact. And so that's the thing that if you tried to build that later on, when everyone was ready to transact, it would actually be too much to build and it would be really confusing, frankly. But if you can get both of these groups on the same set of standards, and then you can get them both prepared to transact with each other, and then once they're able and willing to transact with each other, that's, I think, the really big third step, right? So if the first step was getting public chain DeFi, which we're still doing, and we're going to support them to the best degree we can. And then the second step is getting private blockchains in banks and asset managers in the CSD world to all connect using CCIP and using the various other Chainlink services. Then the third step is getting those two worlds to interact with each other over the Chainlink protocol, over CCIP, over the same data standards, over the same automation standards. And then you can have a single internet of contracts running on Chainlink and the Chainlink framework and the Chainlink network, irrespective of what chain anyone is running on. So in that world, everyone can have their own chain in whatever technology they want, and they can still work with each other, communicate with each other on chain, interact with each other's financial products because they all use the same reliable data, and really create a next generation internet of contracts that powers the global financial system using blockchains as the fundamental underlying infrastructure.
I mean, wow, you know, you can really see Chainlink's role in everything. And I actually think that this is likely going to happen. And I think that what's encouraging is the sort of institutions we've already seen utilize CCIP. He spoke about the first step, which was DeFi, the second step, which of course is now institutions, and then the third step, bringing all of this together and having an internet, a Web3 internet, the Web3 that is kind of standardized, and Chainlink is the kind of facilitator of. I actually do think they're going to achieve that. And in our book, you know, we've gone quite into the history that's yet to be released of Chainlink, what it's trying to do, and you know, broke it right the way down, their Oracle solutions, and why it's such a magnificent project. So that's really all I've got for you guys. If you've enjoyed this content, like and comments are always really appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe. Go and check out allincrypto.com. You can go over to our charts page and favorite Chainlink if you want. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next YouTube video. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful Monday.